All right, welcome to this second video of the mini-series called Management Review. And Management Review is a special type of meeting that you must prepare, especially for complex projects. And we're going to talk about the details of this type of meeting. So there are three different types of meeting normally. There is information meetings, there is problem-solving meetings, and there is decision meetings. In the past, I spoke about pulse meetings and about problem-solving meetings. Those are meetings that indeed are more internal. And I said there was two types of meeting because two types of meeting that you do with your team. This one can involve and will involve many times the stakeholder. Okay, and therefore it might involve external people. So management reviews, it's a very specific type of meeting because those are primary informational meetings. Okay, and that means the objective here is to provide information. And one thing before we move on, be very careful. Try avoid mixing meeting types because this can lead to a lot of confusion and it can lead to preparation mistakes and expectation mistakes as well. And therefore, it's always better that you keep meetings separate. If there is two things you must do, then schedule two different meetings. Management reviews are basically a meeting between the core team, and that includes the project manager, and the senior manager or the stakeholder, okay, whoever gave you the project. And this meeting has five main purposes. Number one, it's to monitor the project status and therefore present the status of the project to your stakeholders or your manager. Number two is to provide corrective actions in case things need to be changed for whatever reason. Number three is to analyze the project successes. What are things that have been going well in the project? Number four is to review portfolios of projects. In other words, your project might be compared to other projects, but this option over here is it's optional. And finally, portfolio risk management, which is basically analyzing the risk of all the variety of projects going on in the company. So in order to prepare for this meeting, I have a couple of tips for you. Number one, reviews normally are conducted at set times. What does that mean? It means that you normally have a scheduled time from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., for example, and therefore it is important that you show up on time. Okay, these type of meetings are formal meetings. That means there's going to be minutes, there's going to be agenda, there's going to be action item lists that must be scheduled and done, and therefore be careful because you really have to prepare your information for this type of meeting. Now, the presentations that when you present your project to the stakeholder or to your manager, the presentation is a reflection of how the project is going. Okay, is your presentation clear or is it confusing? Because then I'm going to interpret your project as being clear or confusing. Is your presentation logical or contradictory? Is it proactive or is it paralyzed? So make sure to stick to the positive side of things and really prepare this meeting very well so that it also reflects well on the management of the project. Remember another thing, many projects sometimes might be reviewed at the same time. Just because you have time from 4 to 5, it might mean your management team also is reviewing projects from 3 to 4 or from 5 to 6. And that means there might be people, for example, before you. So make sure that you prepare your time of your presentation very carefully and not to exceed it. And be ready to cut your presentation short. A lot of times you think you're going to have 1 hour, but actually the team before is late by half an hour. So now you have to cut down your presentation to just 30 minutes. And therefore know in your presentation what are the key points you absolutely must talk about and what is just added value that will not contribute much to the progress. So in order to create this management review, there are 7 parts on the meeting, and typically first we start by introducing the team. Obviously, sometimes not everyone remembers the name of the project team, so it's always good to present them. Then you do a quick review of the charter and the objectives of the project, and then you go into the current project status. So you're going to talk first about deliverable status, what things have been accomplished, what things are underway, what things will be started soon. You're going to talk about your schedule status, how are you on track, what's the expectation of end day, are things going better or worse than planned, and so on. And finally, budget status, expenses that were not initially planned, how are you doing compared to the plan, and so on. After you do this presentation, you talk about whatever risks were resolved since last meeting. Since last meeting, you identify the risks, you worked on something. What risks have you eliminated from last meeting? And what risks, for example, are still open? What new risks have you identified since the last meeting? And what do you plan to do about that? This is to show your proactivity. And number 6 is what changes to the original contract do you want to make or do you request? And this obviously only do if applicable. And finally, number 7 is what are the things after the meeting, so on, is what are the things that you plan to do for the next meeting. So what are the things that you want to review and how you're going to assign to your team so that the next meeting this action list is done. So, as you can see, management review meetings are extremely important, demand a lot of preparation. I don't suggest you improvise it, obviously, because one small mistake and it can mean really that your image goes down. All right. Normally, when you present projects, remember you only have one chance to make one first impression, and therefore it is very important that in this meeting you show your proactiveness, you show your logical sense, and you show how clear your information is, because that will show as well how well you're doing on your project. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next video of this mini series.